New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom. Rock and roll.
Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's. Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hasba Cutie.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Van Facebook page, website, and mobile app.
Good evening, dear listeners of Radio Van. It's Friday night and we're
It's
here.
not Friday night.
Oh, it's Saturday. Oh,
Wait a second. If it's Friday night, then what the heck am I doing here?
You know what? It's all because of Van Music Awards, which was yesterday.
How was that?
It was so overwhelmingly, in a good way, of course, but we needed a break after all the organization, and it went great. But
Went well?
yeah, it went well. And
I saw some videos online, some good performances.
yeah, there were. And we were running around so as not to have any mistakes along the way. And the staff, the whole Radio Van staff, was also busy doing some stand-ups on the stage. This year it was a little bit different compared to the previous years. So I'm wondering what we'll have next year. What we'll have to, like, Cirque du Soleil or something.
So you tried a lot of new things out this year, and you'll have to see if any of them make the cut for next year.
Yeah, right. How have you been, Master Steve?
Been all right. Yeah.
We're kind of sad this evening, and because this is our
final show.
Yeah, unbelievable, but I'm saying this.
We've been at this for just over a year.
Yeah.
And it's time for it to come to an end.
All good things come to an end at the end of the day.
Bad things do too.
Yeah. And
it's the good things that we don't want to end.
Right. And so as you might have already guessed, dear listeners, that our show tonight is dedicated to farewells.
Mm-hmm. So this is the farewell episode of the Great American Weekend
with Master Steve
and Ina MK.
And we'll also have a guest later during the show.
Yeah.
We couldn't do this without a guest.
Without guests, yeah. We have Tom Hayes coming. He's a colleague of mine at AUA. He's been here and back from Armenia for quite a while. Mm-hmm. He's also been all over the world. So we'll talk to him a little bit about his experiences being an employee of the U.S. State Department, living and working in different places all over the world.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, here and back in the States.
Awesome. And as always, I would like to remind you guys that you can feel free and call in. 560901 is our phone number. The last chance.
Yeah, this is your last chance to call in and to talk with us.
On air. Live with Master Steve and Ina MK. And you can watch us live on www.radiovan.fm, our official website, our Facebook page, Radio Van FM.
Yeah, we are on Facebook.
Yeah, Radio Van FM 103.1, and our Facebook group, Great American Weekend Radio Van. If you're somewhere out there in the world and you don't have Facebook,
where else would they be?
Just
there is currently no one on the moon.
If you're on Mars or on the moon, go ahead and download our application.
If you're up there in the International Space Station listening to us, Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. Hello out there. By the way, we've had an episode about space, so you can check that out.
Yeah.
We have all the recordings of our previous shows. You
they're-
can find them on our website and in our group as well, so check them out. We've had a lot of fun. Well, Master Steve, what are the episodes that you can just highlight?
Oh, I don't know.
Mine are, let me speak about mine first before you can recall.
Yeah, you put me on the spot with that.
I know,
wasn't
sorry.
expecting that.
I just thought about it, actually. And I think one of the few of the best episodes that we had was with music. So whenever we had music guests, it was...
Yeah, musical guests were always
with
good.
a special atmosphere, so... I think those were the greatest shows that we had. But overall, all of them were fun.
Yeah.
And we
I loved having
cool guests.
Dave Kiyodakion's band on. Mm-hmm. That was a good one. Armin Chavardian when he was on.
We had Arto.
Yeah.
improvising here on the red
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was neat to meet him and talk with him. The musical guests were always great.
We just recently had rappers on there, which was also fun.
I think my favorite episode, because it is probably my favorite period in American literature. One of my favorite episodes was the Beatnik episode.
I know.
And
I knew
a lot of
you'd say
people
that.
probably didn't quite get what on earth was
What
going
were
on
we doing?
during that
It was
episode.
cool.
But I enjoyed it. Jack Kerouac is...
And I loved our kids episode. It was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so honest, so sincere. And right now, as we memorize and get a little nostalgic here, the advertisement break has come.
Even though it's our
knocking
last
on the door.
episode, we still have to pay the bills.
We still have to do that. So stay tuned, tune in, join our all kinds of online platforms. Call in 560901. We're here for the last time till 9 p.m. Master Steve and Ina MK in Great American Weekend.
Come and hang with us every weekend. It'll be a blast.
A blast?
Yeah, a good time.
No, come chill with us. It'll be cool.
Chill?
Yeah, relax, hang out.
Come chew the fat with us.
Yuck! No way! Join us!
On the Great American Weekend, where we'll help you decode American slang.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I am Master Steve, and I'm here with Ina MK and
Hey.
Ina.
And, of course, as
The
always, the quotes. And I had a pleasure researching and finding all these quotes because we also included quotes by Elizabeth Taylor, who is a great, great woman, was, and still is.
In memory.
In memory.
And on film.
And why we chose her, because 27th February was her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with goodbye quotes, and then there'll be a smooth transition to Elizabeth Taylor's quotes. So let's do that. Don't be dismayed at goodbyes. A farewell is necessary before you can meet again. And meeting again after moments or lifetimes is certain for those who are friends. Richard Bach. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard.
I like that one.
Winnie the Pooh.
A.A. Milne.
Yeah. Great is the art.
Yeah, for a children's book, for children's books, because there's more than one of them, right? Winnie the Pooh it's
not
so
only
clever
for
and
children.
wise. Oh, I know. I learned more from it by reading it to my kids when I was an adult than hearing about it when I was a kid.
Yeah, of course. And there are a lot of fairy tales that still teach us when we're grown-ups. Great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending, says Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Well, or ending well. knowing when to stop.
Ending well. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Semisonic.
Oh yeah, that's a song lyric, yeah.
Farewell, God knows when we shall meet again. William Shakespeare. It is so hard to live until you live, and then it is the easiest thing in the world. John Green.
Once you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something too to be said about.
Once you're gone, you're done.
Yeah, it's easier to leave, to say goodbye and leave, a lot of times than it is to say goodbye and stay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a self-torture.
What is that? There's an REM song, "Leaving New York," where one of the lyrics is, "It's easier to leave than to be left behind."
Yeah, true.
You know, so saying goodbye and leaving is a lot of times easier than saying goodbye and staying.
Because you've made that decision, I guess.
Well, even if you haven't made that decision, you're going on to something new where you'll be in a new place in a new environment, and you may not necessarily
concentrate on the goodbye thing. Yeah. That's right. Where are we going after the show, Master
I'm going
Steve?
home. Tonight, I'm going home.
Okay.
Or did you mean like in the bigger picture than that?
That's what I meant, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's as far ahead as I'm thinking today. I'm going home.
Some cause happiness wherever they go. Others, whenever they go. Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde
I
is...
hope this is not the case.
So witty, that man was. So witty.
Only in the agony of parting do we look into the depth of love. George Eliot. And I think that's about maybe valuing and appreciating things that you lose right after.
Yeah.
Whatever we have, we don't really value, take for granted. And I think it is this perspective. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. Rumi, of course. Philosophy. You've changed me forever, and I'll never forget you. Master Steve.
Oh.
I've learned along my journey that letting go doesn't mean loving less. Alex L. If you're brave enough to say goodbye, life will reward you with a new hello. Paulo Coelho.
I like that one.
I like the quote, but I don't really like this author, to be honest.
Oh, you don't?
No.
What have you read
It's
of his?
So cliche. I don't know.
Yeah.
11 seconds? Minutes? What was it?
I don't know.
11 minutes or seconds.
Yeah.
I forget.
Paulo Coelho.
what
I mean, I guess I've read 2 or 3 of his books. I forget. And one of them I didn't really care for. But The Alchemist is a great, great book.
I haven't read that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should read that one. It's really good.
Yeah, it was so popular years back.
Yeah. I think the Alchemist and The Pilgrim. I think there was one other one of his that I read. Or maybe I didn't even finish it because I didn't like it that much. But The Alchemist is really an incredible book.
Okay. We'll do it next. Goodbye always makes my throat hurt.
Aww.
Charlie Brown. Can miles truly separate you from friends? If you want to be with someone you love, aren't you already there? Richard Bach again. The story of life is quicker than the wink of an eye. The story of love is hello and goodbye until we meet again. Jimi Hendrix. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow. Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. And And I'll read a couple of quotes by Elizabeth Taylor, and we'll be ready for the break again. The problem with people who have no vices is that generally you can be pretty sure they're going to have some pretty annoying virtues. Pretty annoying. Your virtues are just annoying.
Annoying virtues.
Pour yourself a drink, put on some lipstick, and pull yourself together. That's a good advice for women.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to put on any lipstick, but I'll do the other two.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Pour yourself a drink and pull yourself together. Okay.
You find out who your real friends are when you're involved in a scandal. And this is so freaking true.
Yeah.
Human nature. I feel very adventurous. There are so many doors to be opened, and I'm not afraid to look behind them. When people say she's got everything, I've only one answer. I haven't had tomorrow. That's a great one. I've only slept with the men I've been married to. How many women can make that claim?
Yeah.
Not many. Not very many.
Yeah, and then how many times has she been married? How many times was she married? I forget. No, it wasn't that many, was it? Oh my gosh.
I don't know. We'll check that out because we are going to speak about her, aren't we? Now we're going on a break. Ladies and gentlemen, call in 560901. Right after the advertisement, we'll be listening to Say Goodbye by Philippe. Stay tuned. The Great American Weekend.
Hey, Steve, do you like Hush Harrison Spas?
Yeah, I love them. But what would you call them in English?
Yeah, I'd call them cowfoot stew, chicken porridge, and sour yogurt soup.
Sorry I asked.
The Great American Weekend.
Back on air.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn.
And we're continuing the quotes.
Yeah, let's continue with the Elizabeth Taylor quotes. I was going to say, if you don't want to, there's one here that I really want to make sure you do. So anyway,
I want to do all of them.
Okay, good. Good.
Okay, when people say she's... we have that. I've only slept... Okay, here we go. Seeing one face continually in crowds is one of the minor annoyances of being in love.
Yeah. See, but now I wonder what exactly she meant by that. Meaning like you're in a crowd and you keep seeing that one person.
Yeah.
Like for real?
No.
Like that's the person? Or you
just see the face everywhere.
Yeah,
in every single
you think
person.
You see it all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's what she means. And that is quite annoying. You just do it. You force yourself to get up. You force yourself to put one foot before the other, and God damn it, you refuse to let it get to you. You fight, you cry, you curse, then you go about the business of living. That's how I've done it. There's no other way. Yeah, she is a fighter. She was. It is strange that the years teach us patience, that the shorter our time, the greater our capacity for waiting. And that's a good wisdom. I agree
one I
with
like.
that one.
That was the one that I was hoping we would get to, if none of the other ones.
There is this saying in Russian. I think that's some lyrics for songs. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it says, "If only youth could, if only youth knew, if only adulthood could." So
okay, yeah.
When you're young, you can do so many things, and you have the energy and the willingness to do it, but you don't really know how to do it. And then you're wise enough when you've grown up and you already know how to do stuff, but you don't have much time, or you don't, or it's already too late, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, I think with this
meaning.
one, it's, you learn patience. You learn to put up with other people's BS. and just say, all right, this too will pass. And then,
I'll wait.
it's easier for me to just let this go than to put up a fight about it.
And the last one I have here, I think marriage does give a sense of oneness that just being together can't.
And she would know about that.
Yeah,
I looked it up.
7 times.
I looked 7 times she was married. And what to
try
me
again.
What to me is a little interesting about that is married 7 times, only 4 children.
Yeah. And I'm wondering is it only one from first marriage or from 2 marriages?
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know. That we would have to do a little bit of research on.
Yeah, we'll research again. We have some breaks. And I have prepared 10 glamorous facts about Elizabeth Taylor. If you don't mind, Master Steve,
No,
I
go
can
ahead.
read them out. So, number 1, she had twice the normal number of eyelashes. Was there anything more stunning than Taylor's eyes? While most women enhance their eyelash line with mascara and falsies, Taylor didn't have to. She had genetic mutation. According to Slate, this mutation known as lymphedema distichia syndrome. If I pronounced it correctly, excuse me. Was caused by a gene called FOXC2. Apparently, 7% of people with this mutation also have congenital heart disease, and Taylor did have heart troubles that led her to death. Number 2, she's been on the cover of Life magazine a record number of times. Taylor landed her first Life cover at the age of 15 and was on the cover 14 times throughout her life. She's been in over 1,000 magazines as well, and the only person who's graced the cover of People solo more than she has in Princess Diana. No.
Oh, wow. Which is odd because, Elizabeth Taylor had a pretty long life and a really long career. Mm-hmm. But Diana had,
the popularity.
She was a princess.
Yeah. Oh, well. Elizabeth Taylor was Cleopatra. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why. Number 3, MGM paid for her first wedding. When Taylor married Conrad Hilton Jr. in 1950, her film career had taken off and he had a sizable fortune due to his father's hotel chain. Though neither of them would have struggled to foot the bill for their 600-guest affair, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer actually paid for the whole thing. That's a lucky thing.
Yeah. Huh.
Number 4, she was unapologetic about her affair with Eddie Fisher. When word got out that Taylor was having an affair with Fisher, who was married to Debbie Reynolds at the time, Taylor released a statement saying, "Eddie is not in love with Debbie and never has been. You can't break up a happy marriage. Debbie and Eddie's never has been." Fisher claimed that his and Reynolds' relationship had been rocky since before Taylor entered the picture. Number 5, Cleopatra made her $1 million. Cleopatra wasn't just decked out in gold. The film also allowed Taylor to deck herself out. She was the first woman to make $1 million for a single movie. Granted, Cleopatra filmed for over 2 years, and the movie itself ended up being over 4 hours long. So she was probably paid accordingly due to the time she put in. Number 6, a congresswoman tried to ban Taylor and Burton from the U.S. Taylor was no stranger to making headlines. But the scandal that arose from Taylor and Richard Burton's affair on the set of Cleopatra caused such an uproar that a Georgia congresswoman asked the Attorney General to forbid them from re-entering the country.
What?
Yeah, this is funny. The Vatican even got involved by printing an open letter scolding them to their erotic vagrancy.
I mean, yeah, okay, that I can understand. But how would you bar them from
don't know.
re-entering the
This is
country
really weird.
on whatever? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's move on to the 7th. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is her prudest work. Before she died in 2011, Taylor gave an interview to U.S. Weekly and wrote 21 little-known facts. One of those facts was that she's proudest, so that she was most proud of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It was also the most highly claimed movie of her career. Number 8, Taylor would have married Burton again. Most of Taylor's marriages were tumultuous. But her relationship with Burton was the most nurturous. They got married twice and divorced twice. But Taylor said, I wonder, Master Steve, if the 7 times count. include this double wedding. They got married twice and divorced twice. But Taylor said that if he hadn't died in 1984, she would have married him again. She considered Burton and Mike Todd the loves of her life. Have you watched the movie? What was it called? The movie when this guy and the girl in the movie, they get married over and over again. I have to remember.
I don't know.
The title of this movie is a great one. She fought for HIV/AIDS research. When the AIDS epidemic hit in the 80s, Taylor was one of the first celebrities to throw support behind research. In addition to co-founding the American Foundation for AIDS Research and the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, her massive jewelry collection was auctioned off after she died, and the money went towards the cause. She was a dame. In 2000, Taylor was awarded Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II, alongside Julie Andrews. Her Twitter handle was even Dame Elizabeth. Taylor was actually born in England to American parents, but her family moved to the U.S. when World War II broke out.
Yeah, and that's something I knew that she was a dame, and I had never really figured out how that could happen because I knew that she was American. But apparently because she was born in England, she had British citizenship, so she qualified. Yeah, that's interesting.
Cool. What do I have next?
Oh, that's it. That's all 10 of them. What do we have next? We have, I don't know. Should we do the news? Yeah, let's do the news. So,
it's our last show. We can
do whatever we want, right? It's not like they're going to cancel us. All the sponsors are going to get upset and they're going to pull the funding. Why? What does that matter to us now? At least, there isn't the FCC that can fine the radio station if we do anything ridiculous and outrageous and offensive. Could we?
What do you want to do?
Well, okay, so we've got Super Tuesday coming up.
We have a fan sitting there outside and watching us.
Should we bring somebody in?
We could.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no. Hasva's seat is empty. We can have a third co-host now here.
Maybe after the break.
Maybe
after the break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
let's do the news.
Yeah, we'll get started with the news. Tuesday, March 3rd, is Super Tuesday in the United States.
Super Tuesday?
Yeah. This means that everything is supersized. So wherever you go, Super Tuesday is the biggest day in the primary calendar. So every 4 years, when a presidential election is coming around, you've got all these primaries. We've talked about this before, right? We talked about the the Iowa caucuses and how much of a disaster that was, and different things like that we've talked about before. Well, Super Tuesday, we have Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, my home state of Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. All holding their primaries on that day. So it's the first day where there are a handful of primaries going on the same day. And it's the day where the single day where the largest number of delegates are awarded. So it's basically 30% of the delegates who decide who the nominee will be for that party are awarded on that day. So it's 1,357 out of 3,979 delegates are decided on that day in these primary elections in those states. And yeah, so it's a big deal. You have South Carolina, they're voting today. And whoever wins South Carolina usually gets a bit of a bump in the polls on Super Tuesday. Because, of course, they're in the news more. Whoever wins today will be in the news a lot over the next couple of days, and will basically get free publicity for the polling for the primaries on Tuesday. And, of course, since Donald Trump is the incumbent, they're not really doing Republican primaries, although in some places they are, but it really doesn't make a difference. So Trump is going to be for the Republicans, and for the Democrats, it's still very much up in the air. Bernie Sanders is kind of in the lead right now. He's won in the last couple of states that had primaries. It looks, though, like Biden will actually do pretty well in South Carolina, but we'll have to wait until tomorrow morning to see. And then we'll know a lot more about what the election is going to look like in November after Tuesday. So there's a lot of, it'll be a big day. It'll be a pretty decisive day for the election in November.
November is coming.
November's coming, yeah. Not soon enough for my liking. The whole election thing has just been so kind of
bizarre,
silly and odd, and I just want to get it over with. I
wonder how many people think like you.
I don't know. Hopefully a lot. Hopefully this will just be over soon.
And I've got some local news, if I may.
Okay.
American Armenian athlete Alison Halverson gains Armenian citizenship. Will most likely represent Armenia at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. I am officially an Armenian citizen. This is one of my proudest accomplishments, the athlete said on Instagram, captioning a photo of her with an Armenian passport. Just over 100 years ago, my ancestors faced some of the hardest times ever seen on this earth. Many of them lost their lives in unspeakable ways, but my grandfather was able to narrowly escape the Armenian genocide by dressing up as a young girl and taking a boat to Ellis Island. Without my ancestors' sacrifices and courage, I wouldn't be here today. I have fallen in love with this amazing, beautiful, welcoming, and strong country, and am excited to see what the future holds for myself and Armenia, she wrote. Okay, there is another news about sports, about chess, actually. Mamikon Gharibian wins chess tournament in Norway. The 16-year-old chess player, Mamikon Gharibian, won the international tournament Kragero Resort in Norway. The Armenian representative scored 7.5 points out of 9 possible. Mamikon supplemented the norm of the Grandmaster and also improved his personal rating by 28 points. The press service of the Chess Federation of Armenia reported. Another news about science, how an Armenian scientist created an international company using a toy. No, that's interesting. In 1999, Dr. George Ambartsumian founded GA International, a company that provides exceptional identification solutions for industries including biopharma, biotechnology, medical, biobanking, healthcare, construction, fashion retail, and more. A scientist graduated from Kazan State Academy of Veterinary Medicine in Russia, where he earned his doctor's degree. He later earned a doctor of veterinary medicine degree from Armenia's Yerevan
veterinary. Oh, forget a pet doctor.
A pet doctor, and performed postdoctoral research at Montreal's Concordia University, Notre Dame Hospital, and the Shriners Hospital.
The Shriners Hospital.
While working in a lab in Shriners, Dr. Ambartsumian realized that the labels used to mark the tubes in the lab were constantly falling off, even becoming wet, especially when stored in sub-zero temperatures. Years later, Ambartsumian decided to become an entrepreneur. At the time, an acquaintance of his was selling a small label-making toy called Stika, Stika. Seeing this toy reminded Ambartsumian of the barely adhesive labels at the Shriners lab. After learning all he could about plastic film, adhesives, and paper materials, Ambartsumian went on to create a label that stuck to tubes even in sub-zero temperature. He presented his idea to an organization in Laval, Quebec, and began promoting his labels to a number of labs.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. I mean, just knowing, like, being aware of things, remembering a problem you had and then seeing something years later that, hey, this could
That's
fix
all about
that
good
problem.
memory.
A good memory, yes, which is why I haven't started a company and made a fortune, because my memory is like Swiss cheese.
Take notes, Master Steve.
Take notes. Oh, I would have to, like, haul around. Could I have just like a huge wagon to pull around with me with all my notes in it? I would have to.
Then you'll have many cool.
I suppose we should talk maybe a little bit about the coronavirus, right?
After the break.
COVID-19 after the break. Well, let's talk about it during the break.
Okay.
Let's talk about it during the break.
There's so much panic around it. We don't have to spread it on
I know.
air.
Well, and I think maybe that's why we should talk about it. Just, hey.
We have a quiz.
Calm down.
We can do that.
Calm down.
Calm
hey,
down.
everybody. Calm down.
The whole world is sick. Calm down.
To a certain extent, there's not a whole lot you can do about this. So calm down, wash your hands, cover your mouth, and then wash your hands again.
Shut your mouth.
And then we're going to a commercial break. We'll be back after this on the Great American Weekend.
We'll also have a music break, so it's going to be a little long. We're going to listen to So Long Goodbye by Down Low. Stay tuned to the last episode of the Great American Weekend on Radio Van.
Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
Wow. Welcome back to the Great American Weekend. I think that might be the last time I ever have to hear that. I mean, that was funny, like, at first. And now...
they just don't work with foreigners.
They just don't work anymore.
You've
after
become
like
a foreigner for America.
Oh, man.
Oh. We're back, and our guest is already at the station waiting for his turn to come and join our show, and we're ready to welcome him here on air. But before that, I have a quiz, Master Steve.
Oh, okay.
Would you like to try it?
Do I have a choice?
No,
Yeah,
not
okay.
really. So the quiz is about goodbyes in different countries' traditions. So let's see. Let's learn some traditions of saying goodbye.
Okay.
Let's do it. Number one question. In ancient Rome, how did an unhappy couple dissolve their marriage? A. By filing for a dissolution with the Senate. B. By announcing it in the Circus Maximus. C.
Yeah,
by,
and that wasn't a circus. It was the racetrack where they used to have chariot races. So it's not like going in there with all the clowns and saying, "Hey, we're getting a divorce.
We're getting divorced.
Look at those big shoes." No, that's not what was going on.
That would be a good way of distress. C. By appealing directly to the emperor for a divorce. And D. By declaring in front of 7 witnesses that they no longer wished to live together.
I believe it's the 7 witnesses.
And
It was either that or the ancient.
it was
the ancient
A.
It was A. What?
The
Appealing
Senate.
to the Senate?
Yeah.
Really, the Senate would bother to deal with that?
I guess
I thought
marriage was a
divorce was
big
more-
deal.
I thought divorce was more
Back in the
common. Okay,
time.
then the last one must have been. Well, anyway, that sounds like something from history. 7 witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Maybe there was an ancient somewhere else.
I'm sure. Well, I don't know. My Swiss cheese is failing me.
Maybe that was ancient Greece. Number 2, what is the name of the document that dissolves a marriage according to Judaic biblical law? The get, the revelation, the put, the end. Yes, it's
The get.
the get.
Yeah. No, it's not going to tell me. I'm
It's
wrong.
right.
It's right.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Although Islamic traditions differ widely, for some divorce, it's as simple as the husband saying a phrase in the presence of his wife. This phrase is called the talaq. What constitutes the talaq? Go, you're no longer part of this household. I divorce you. I no longer love you. Allah no longer recognizes our marriage.
Oh, those were separate things.
Yeah.
I think it's just I divorce you.
And that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4. The initial chapter of the Mayor of Casterbridge, written in 1886 by Thomas Hardy, relates a long-standing tradition in England of one way a husband could shed himself of his no longer wanted wife.
This isn't about goodbyes.
Yeah,
this is about divorce.
Yeah, it's about saying a goodbye to a wife or
Yeah.
a husband. What term is applied to this unorthodox method? Ending the hunt? Shedding the luggage? Wife selling?
Well, wife selling would be something different than getting divorced, wouldn't it?
Losing the trunk?
Losing the trunk, because that sounds pretty cool. I mean, it's insulting and all, but, losing the trunk.
Okay, losing a trunk. Number 5, for most people, divorce was a very simple procedure in Victorian England. True, false?
False.
And it doesn't show the answers anymore. Well, I guess we'll see.
Okay. I'm just getting them wrong, and you're trying to not have me lose my confidence, right?
Just a minute. I'm sorry. I lost it.
So in the meantime,
Yeah.
this coronavirus, don't panic.
No.
I mean, I saw this meme the other day on Facebook, and it was something about, like, the coronavirus can't legally enter your body without your permission. And I'm like, yeah,
That is
okay.
very funny.
But you get this idea from some of the news coverage that it's, oh, why can't we stop it? If the authorities and the governments and whatever were being better about this, we'd be able to stop it. I'm like, no, it's a virus. You can't stop the thing. It's going to spread.
Some people do not realize that they cannot control everything.
You can't control nature. You can try, and I'm not saying you should just all go out and,
I have my quiz back.
Okay, good.
The Jin. People of China use a certificate of divorce to end the marriage. The document must not be written in the home, and what other tradition must be met to ward off bad luck? A. Neither party can speak for 5 days. B. The wife may not return to the house. C. The pad and ink must be discarded. D. A grand feast must be provided.
I don't know what's true, but I think probably the best thing would be that neither of them can speak for 5 days. Yeah. We're getting a divorce. Neither of us can speak for 5 days. Hopefully by then we'll get over this whole need to start blaming and arguing with each other. And then,
and you just calm down and get over it.
I got to shut up for 5 days.
The Montokuji Temple, located in central Japan, allows visitors to purge themselves of the residue of a relationship by writing down their hopes for the results of breaking up a bad marriage and doing what with the paper? A. Floating it down a river. B. Tacking it to a wall commemorating bad relationships. C. Burning it in an incenser, and D, flushing it down the toilet.
I don't think there's a toilet
I don't
in the temple.
Maybe a river sounds nice.
I would say burning it in an incenser.
Okay.
Yeah, so you burn it and the smoke goes up to the heavens and the gods.
And you're forgiven.
And the gods hear your hopes.
And the gods signed the document.
Yeah.
Number 8, a relatively recent Japanese divorce tradition is the gathering of the divorced couple and their friends for a buffet meal and ceremony in which the couple performs what symbolic act? A. Mock roast of each other. B. Burning off the marriage certificate. C. Smashing off wedding rings. D. Ripping off bed linens.
I don't know. Ripping off bed linens, maybe. What were the other ones? It's just like a roast. That could just go bad. A mock roast. So you're going to pretend to make fun of each other and criticize one another. I don't think that would be much of a mock thing with most couples by the time they're ready to get divorced. I don't think that would be a good idea. It could probably end in
the other.
Yeah. End with blows.
Maybe linens.
Burning of burning of the marriage certificate, I guess.
Okay. Number 9, we got to do this quick.
Okay.
The Universal Unitarian Church provides a ceremony in which a divorcing couple apologizes to each other, their families, and their community. What positive name is given to this ceremony? Ceremony of goodbye, ceremony of hope, dissolution ceremony, ceremony of moving on.
Ceremony of moving on, I think.
And number 9, there are laws that allow for divorce in every country but the Vatican and what other country? Saudi Arabia, Zimbabwe, Brazil, Philippines.
Vatican, Zimbabwe?
No, Vatican is for sure. But what other country? Saudi Arabia, Zimbabwe, Brazil, Philippines.
Philippines, maybe.
You think?
Yeah. They're very Catholic. Well, some of them. Part of the population is rather Catholic.
Okay,
because they were
Spanish. Got the answers.
A Spanish colony.
Number 1. In ancient Rome, how did a happy couple divorce? By filling for...
with the Senate.
The correct answer is by declaring in front of 7 witnesses. You were right.
I was right.
You were right, Master
The Senate
Steve.
wouldn't deal with divorces. Well, hopefully the Senate had more important things to do.
The second question.
Can you imagine if the Armenian parliament had
No. That would end up with a revolution. The number 2 was about the document with biblical law. So it was named the Get, and it was correct.
Okay.
Number 3 was I divorce you, the phrase which
that one I was pretty
showed
certain
talak.
of,
Yeah. Number 4 was wasn't losing the trunk. It was wife selling.
Wife selling? Wow.
Yeah, I know that's rude. Number 5. Yes, it was false. That for most people, divorce was a very simple procedure in Victorian England. The question about China and the certificate. The pen and ink must be discarded was the answer.
Okay.
Number 7, flushing it down the toilet was the answer.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There's a toilet in the temple that you flush it down. How come that just...
Yeah, Japanese people have this thing about toilets.
It must be like a relatively new tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is why it surprises me that there's a toilet. So I wonder if the toilet's used for anything else.
The ceremony of hope was the answer for question number 9.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And number 10 question was Philippines, and you were correct. You got 4 out of 10.
I got 4 out of 10 right?
Yeah.
Ouch.
You're not a divorce expert, and I guess that's a good thing.
I think that's a good thing.
We'll come back, ladies and gentlemen, with our guest in the studio. Stay tuned, call in, write your comments. This is your last chance with the Great American Weekend here on Radio Van. We'll be back.
Ina, what would make America great again?
More barbecue.
No, we need more freedom. That's what'll make it great.
Join us on Great American Weekend.
And help us solve all of America's problems.
Every show is recorded by the NSA and sent to the White House.
We're back.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn.
And we have our guest on the red couch in the studio. Hello, Tom. Welcome.
It's nice to be here. I'm very proud to be here for your last show.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
And can we start from the very beginning? How, where are you from, and how did you end up in Armenia?
This is the 3rd time I've ended up in Armenia.
Okay.
So I came here. I'm from Tennessee originally and grew up there. Went to school there. So I joined the Peace Corps, and I came to Armenia. It's kind of a funny story. They told me I was going to go to Africa, and then the Soviet Union fell apart. And
you came to the Africa of Soviet Union.
Well, no. It was better than that. They told me I was going to go to Africa, and they said it would be a year from now before you actually go. And I took a job and started working, and then they called me in about a week after that, and they said, we need you to go to Armenia next week. And I said, where's Armenia? Basically, so I couldn't find out any information about Armenia much. That was kind of in the pre-internet days. And we were the first group of volunteers that came here. It was during that really hard time in Armenia, 1992-94.
Oh, a hero.
That time. So, we stayed for the full 2 years, and I met my wife here. And we got married right before I left as a volunteer. We got married. And then we went back to the United States, and then I came a second time to work at the American University.
She's Armenian?
My wife's Armenian. Yes, she is. She's from Tallinn, as a matter of fact.
Love is the answer.
And this is the 3rd time I'm here. So, and I'm teaching at American University again. I'm very happy to be back.
I thought you were going to say, and this is the 3rd time I'm getting married. Oh, thanks for sharing.
Thank you very much.
And what is it that you miss the most about American when you're here?
When I'm here? I miss my family, of course, you know. I miss there's some consumer things that I miss, obviously, that you can't get here. But as time has gone on, I've found, you know, things have changed in Armenia. You can get pretty much anything you want here now. But mainly I miss my family, and I miss seeing Tennessee because it's quite, you know, it's a beautiful state. That's where I'm from, like I said. And a lot of mountains there. People are very friendly. I miss that. But, you know, I'm here, and I'm probably going to stay here until I die, basically. That's my plan anyway. So I'm not leaving anymore.
It's great that great to hear that Armenia welcomed you in such a way that you've decided to live your life here.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it here. I like it very much.
Great to hear that.
I understand that completely.
You've been here a few years too. Right?
I've been here for a while. Yeah, I got here much later than you did, almost a decade later.
He was here in a very difficult time.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It was a very fun time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard for everyone that was here. You know, they were cutting down the trees in the park and burning them for firewood and
burning books.
Yeah,
burning everything that would burn.
I was staying with a family here, and they were burning their books to stay warm. That's how bad
I know.
it was.
But it was fun time for me, in my memories, because I was little back then.
Yeah.
And we were so close with all the neighbors. Everybody would come visit each other and play games in the evenings, and people were much closer.
Bring over books to burn.
Yeah. Well, let's leave out that fact.
I think people were a lot closer then.
Yeah.
And hardship always brings people together.
Especially Armenian people. Now we'll have to go on a break and a song break every time we say goodbye. And we'll be back after that to discover Tom's life in Armenia. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend farewell episode on Radio Van 103.1. And I'm here with Master Steve, and I'm Ina MK, and our guest is Tom Hayes. Hayes.
What's the best word in American English?
My all-time favorite word is but I usually refer to it as lovemaking.
Become more fluent in American English and slang.
We're back in the studio with our guest, Tom, and I can't wait to ask you this question because traveling have always been.
Talking about traveling is always fun.
It's always fun and interesting. So we know that you're a world traveler.
You've been in a few countries, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about this experience and maybe some comparings with Armenia?
Okay.
Some funny stories to tell. I bet you've got some.
I probably do, if I can remember any of them. We started off, me and my wife, I studied in Germany for a year when I was in college, and I really liked that experience. So I wanted to go back overseas, and I couldn't figure out a way to do that. So I decided to join the Peace Corps. That was really my primary motivation for going in. I didn't have any altruistic motives. It's not true, really. I did, but I did want to go overseas. And like I said, I ended up in Armenia. And my wife also likes to travel. So we decided that we would try and continue with that life. And after we got back to the United States, I went back into journalism for a little while. I used to be a journalist, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I decided to go into teaching, and we ended up going to Saudi Arabia. And that was an interesting experience living there. We lived there for 2 years, and I was teaching at a university, and they just opened it in the north of Saudi Arabia, so everything was brand new, very disorganized, and so
I thought you were going to say everything was brand new and shiny and clean, brand new and disorganized. Well, yeah, that.
Usually things
you do like interfering in periods when they're really disorganized and hard times.
Well, like when I came here to Armenia, the Peace Corps was not as well organized as you might think, because it was very difficult to have a program here.
Yeah, I bet.
So they could not even pay staff when they came. So what they used to do is they would go once a month to Germany I think to Frankfurt, and they'd get a suitcase full of $100 bills and they'd bring it back here. That was the only way they could. That was the only way that they could finance the program and, pay their staff. So you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like the whole program was thrown together really quick. I mean, you said you found out in like a week. Go to Armenia, and the program was just starting and everything.
Yeah, they didn't have the sites. I mean, they were working. They were doing the best they could. I'm not saying anything about that. They were doing the very best that they could, but it just wasn't enough time to get things ready.
Yeah.
And the first site that we went to was in Yerevan, and it just didn't work out. Me and a friend went up there, and when I got back, the Peace Corps English, the head of the English program, because I was teaching English, she more or less told me to go and find someplace else to go. So I had to go find it myself. And I found out that they needed a teacher in Echmiadzin, and I ended up staying down there most of the time when I was here. But that fell apart, too. I mean, it was just like one thing after another. And I finally ended up just teaching in Yerevan. I taught journalism classes here, too, at the American Embassy. That's how I met my wife, actually.
Okay.
All roads lead to Yerevan, and it's not Rome.
Yeah.
Because of the coronavirus.
That's kind of an interesting story, if you want to hear it, how I met my wife.
Of course.
Yeah. She was a journalist, and she used to work for Ha-Ha-Shat, that political party. She was in their press office. And I was teaching journalism, like basic news writing skills. And she came to sign up for this class that I was teaching, but everyone had to take a test because there were so many people that were interested in the class, basic news writing skills, that we had to have a test. I think we had about 150, 200 people there in the old embassy building, in that big auditorium that they have that has Lenin's head. Used to have Lenin's head on the back, so it was really interesting place. So it was like a bas relief or something with Lenin there. And so anyway, I gave this test, and I remembered her at the interview because there was some girl in front of her came down that asked a question, and I saw this really pretty girl standing behind this girl was asking me the question. And apparently she asked the question my wife wanted to know, because she just kind of nodded her head and left after that. So when I got home, I started grading these papers, and I could only take about 10 students, right? So I started looking, and I had some that were kind of iffy because I wasn't really sure that they needed it. And my wife had written on her test, she was one of those papers, she had written on there, she said, I really want this class, I really need it, and if you pick me, you'll never regret it.
And she was right.
She was right.
That's a great
story. We got married about 4 months later.
Oh, wow.
Really fast.
That's incredible.
All right, Tom. Can you name 5 things you love about Armenia except your wife?
Well, that's the first thing.
Of course.
I love the people here. They're very friendly. I like to speak the Armenian language as best I can. I'm not very good at it, I don't think, but I try. And I love the food here. The cuisine is really wonderful. Of all the places I've been in the world, I think it has some of the best cuisine in the world right here in Armenia. It's a great
compliment.
Yeah,
thank you.
Really. And, it's a good life. I like living in Yerevan. The city is a very nice city. It's easy. I like to walk, so it's easy to walk around in Yerevan. I like the weather here, too. It's, the summers are glorious. The winters, I like the snow, too. We're not getting much snow anymore. But and I don't know. I just there's so many things about Armenia. I like the cognac. I like the wine too. The wine's gotten a lot better.
Oh, the wine has gotten a lot better. Yeah.
It used to be pretty atrocious, but now it's very good. Now it's getting better. When I first came here, it was kind of like grape juice with alcohol in it. There's some really fine Armenian wines now.
Yeah. Now you were supposed to go to. You were told by Peace Corps that you were supposed to go to Africa,
right? And
you ended up here, but you did make it to Africa at some point, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Later on, strangely enough, my wife became Peace Corps director in Uganda. She first worked for Habitat for Humanity for a few years, and I did too, actually. But she eventually became Peace Corps director in Uganda, and so we came down there. And I was thinking that I would just teach English, but I also had applied for the U.S. Foreign Service at that time. And lo and behold, I got in. So, but we lived in Uganda. She lived there for 5 years. And at that point, I had to go to another post, which was not Uganda, because I joined the Foreign Service. and I ended up going to Abidjan on the other side of Africa in Cote d'Ivoire. I was there for 2 years, and then I went to Uganda and joined her. We spent a lot of time in Africa. Uganda's a beautiful country too. Very nice place.
Favorite place in Africa?
Probably Chininga Lake in Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a caldera, and there's a huge lake in the bottom of it. I don't know how many feet deep it is. It's one of the only places you can safely swim because they have that schisto in Uganda, which is some sort of parasite. It's in a lot of the water, like in the Nile River. But I really like going to Chininga Lodge there. It's just a beautiful view. You can see the far off, I think it's the Rwenzori Mountains there, and they've got snow on top of them on the equator, right? So it's really cool. And it's just a beautiful lake down there. You can go down there and swim and ride your, canoe and stuff like that, and hiking all over. It's one of the best places in Uganda, I think.
Great.
Nice.
You teach. What is that thing or few things
seminar
that you have learned from this process?
Well, coming back, I really was very pleasantly surprised. The students they're just the way I remember them. They haven't changed much. They're very, I think they're engaged and they're involved for the most part. I really like working with Armenian students. They're quite well educated too, for the most part. And I'm enjoying myself. I'm glad that I'm working at American University because I think they have a very important mission to do here in Armenia, and I'm glad to be a part of that. I hope that that I can help contribute in any way that I can to make it a better institution than it is now.
If you could change anything about yourself, what would it be?
If I could change anything about myself, I'm trying to, one thing that I've been trying to do in my life, because I had a very hectic job before when I worked for the Department of State. I was working like 60 hours a week and under a lot of stress all the time. So I'm trying to be more in the present moment now and trying to live my life like that. Be more just aware of what's going just now, this moment, because that's all we really have in life. It's just being here together, and a lot of people are looking for things in the future that aren't going to be there, really.
Right.
That never come the way they want them to be. And I want to learn, and I'm trying to, just to be right here, right now, all the time.
That's a hard thing
It is
to do.
hard to do because your mind's always pulling you in one direction or the other. And, I've gotten into a lot of this. I guess I listen to Eckhart Tolle a lot. He's a spiritual teacher, and also to Alan Watts. I don't know if you're into philosophy. You might have heard of those people.
I've heard of both of them. Yeah.
Right, and they're kind of into Eastern philosophy and being in the present moment. And I'd like to do more of that, and I really would like to share that with Armenians someday if I can figure out a way to do that.
That'd be great. Can you start with us? Some interesting practices. Maybe there are meditations, or what do you how do you practice that way of thinking?
I don't really think it's necessary to meditate. I do meditate sometimes, but I don't think it's necessary to. The most important thing is just to try and be here right now all the time, and be with your feelings all the time too, no matter what they are, and accept the situation as it is right now. Accept this moment as it is right now, and that's the way that you can let go of a lot of things. Like a lot of people are really worried about what's going to happen next, what's going to be in the future, or they're thinking about things in the past, and those things don't even exist. They really don't exist, and they never did, and they never will, because all that really exists is this moment right here. Even if you're thinking about the future, when you get to that point in the future, it's still going to be right now.
So one of the clues is what I get from what you said is the acceptance.
Yeah, it's
of
acceptance.
what's happening right now.
To accept this moment as it is right now, and to be here with it, no matter what it is. That's hard for a lot of people because their mind's always pulling them in different directions.
Yeah.
And that's
well, their minds or their phones. their phones.
Phones. That's like the ruination of the world. So, I mean, everybody's got one now, but it's like it reinforces that in your head, right, to not be here now.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, the most important thing, like I said, is just try and practice to be here right now, and that's the way in. That's the path.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you believe in fate or luck?
I kind of think that whatever. Actually, I saw an interesting article the other day, and this is not an old idea, but there's a new. It's not a new theory, but there's a scientific theory that says that all moments, past, present, and future, really exist simultaneously, and we just can't really see that. We can't really experience that because of the way our lives are. We're moving along. We're kind of stuck in time. If you've ever seen that movie Slaughterhouse 5 where the guy gets unstuck in time, you've seen it, I know, haven't you?
Oh, no, I haven't. I've read the book, but I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, he talks about being unstuck in time, and he can move through these different dimensions like that.
What's the title of the movie?
Slaughterhouse 5.
Okay.
Based on our Kurt Vonnegut's novel.
Novel, yeah. And that's an interesting concept. And, it's probably true, but I guess I believe that from the moment that the universe was created, it was inevitable that we were going to be sitting here right now doing this.
But see, then that always brings up the question of free will.
It does, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably, it's one of those questions that people like to turn over in their head that don't really matter that much if you have free will or not.
Yeah.
Because it appears that you do, right? So it's better, like in living in the present moment, like I said, just to let go of that too, because it's not something you can resolve or know ultimately.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the ways that I've always kind of avoided that question, and it goes back to my little bit of my education in theology. God can see everything at once, so even if we have free will.
Right.
God knew that this was going to happen.
Exactly.
Because God stands outside of time and can see it all.
The whole puzzle.
Yeah. As soon as it was created, it was all there.
It had to be, right?
It had, so that doesn't negate free will. It's just that God saw it all happen at once because God stands outside of time. And that goes back to, that new scientific theory about how the past, the present, and the future are all present at the same time. Well, it depends on where you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from, this sort of God's perspective.
From our point of view, it's not like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, going back to not being in the present moment and not being present, right? Where did the State Department take you?
Oh, okay. I started, as everyone does, you have to go to training in Washington, so I did that. And then I went to Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan, and I was the economic officer there for 2 years. And I went to Uganda, and I was a consular officer there. And then I had to go back to Washington for some more training. I did Spanish language training there, and I ended up in Panama. It was my last post. And I was a fraud prevention manager for a little while down there. I did a lot of different things, but mainly I was like fraud prevention manager and also a visa officer. I was also chief of American Citizen Services for a little while. A very stressful job.
Wow. Like all of that at the same time?
No, different times.
Even, like jumping from one
State
position.
Department wouldn't ask you to do that.
Yeah. Even the State Department.
But, like I said, American Citizen Service is a good example of that. I mean, you get called anytime, day or night, from Americans that are in trouble and need your help. And generally, there's way too much work for staff to do. You have I was the only officer in that section, and normally there should be at least two. There should be three in American Citizen Services, just to give you an idea of how it was. So you had to do all the normal work like processing visas and doing consular reports of birth abroad and repatriating people to the United States. So you end up working many hours during the day. And then when you go home, you get a little bit relaxed and somebody calls you and says, "I'm in jail, come and help me."
That doesn't really make you feel right here, right now, does it?
Makes you feel very nervous and unsettled.
So out of all the places you've been, which one has made you feel, and actually I think maybe you've already answered this question, which one has made you feel
Armenia.
most at home?
Well, Armenia, I would say. You know, where my family is, that's where my home is, right? And they were with me everywhere almost, except for the time when we were apart when I was in Africa and different posts. You know, we had a wonderful experience. We lived in Vanuatu in the South Pacific. That was the first job my wife got after she went and studied, got an MBA in Scotland, and then she got this job working for Habitat for Humanity as program.
Wait, so you guys were in Scotland for a while?
Well, she was. She had to go and finish up her MBA there. So she was there about a year, and I took care of the kids. That was another adventure for me.
Wow, bravo!
Where were you when that was happening?
I was here.
You were here.
Yeah, and I was paying for her education.
Okay.
So it was a hard time, but you know, it was a wonderful time too. I got to go visit her a few times in Scotland, and that was quite nice. She was in Edinburgh, and you know, wonderful city. We got to go to a lot of places. She had a lot of friends there. But we ended up, her first job was in Vanuatu in the South Pacific. We went down there, and she was trying to restart this program that had basically fallen apart, and she's really an amazing person. I mean, she can just take anything and build something out of it. You know, that's one thing that I've always loved about her. We went down there. I couldn't find a job. I ended up working for Habitat because there's no jobs down there. It's like there's 50,000 people in Port Vila, which is the capital of Vanuatu.
Wow.
Very small, very beautiful country. Unbelievable. The oceans are just crystal blue, and there's fish swimming right up. You know, you go to there's a restaurant I remember in Port Vila we used to go to all the time, and it's right on the ocean. And there was a wall there, and you could just look down and see just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fish, you know, swimming all over. People were throwing French fries and things.
That's what I miss about Armenia.
Let me reformulate my question from earlier. Which place that you've been has made you feel most like you're in America?
In America, Panama.
Yeah, Panama.
Absolutely.
How so?
It's
Why?
just like it's just like you're living in Miami. You know, you have to speak Spanish, and the buildings look the same.
How many languages do you speak, by the way?
I can speak. Wouldn't say I can speak anything fluently, but I can speak German. And I can speak Spanish, and I used to speak French fairly well, but I've forgotten most of it. And I speak Armenian. And I think Armenian is probably the language I speak best right now.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome.
That's great.
You spoke about different things, and I had the feeling there was so much love in all the things that you were talking about. Could you please define love?
Define love? I don't know if I can, honestly. I don't want to I'm copping out on you, I know, but I don't think I have a ready definition I can give you for love.
Love is something you cannot explain.
It's good stuff.
Right.
It's good stuff.
It's the good stuff. It's a nice feeling you have. I guess family, you know, that feels like love to me, being with my family. Being with my kids. My son right now is in the U.S. I was just talking with him. He's coming in May. My oldest son. I've got one here and one in the U.S. and the oldest one's coming in May, and we're all looking forward to that when he comes, you know.
How old are they?
Well, gosh, I was afraid he was going to ask me that. I always get confused. The oldest one, I think he's 21 right now. And the youngest one is 18. And yesterday I said, "Oh, you're 19. You should act like this and this, you know." And he said, "I'm 18." How embarrassing.
That often happens with daddies.
See, now, if you would have said you're 19, so you can go and do this, and it's something he wanted to do, then he wouldn't have corrected you, right?
You know how it works, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
I've got another difficult question. Can I?
Oh, yeah.
I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try.
If any actor was to play you in a movie about your life, who would that be?
I don't know why, but Tom Hanks jumped into my mind because he's so versatile. He could probably do.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And maybe because I saw him on a TV show the other day, I was thinking about him. But I think he would do a good job because he's a very versatile character. I mean, he's a very versatile character actor, I guess. And
he can play anything, I guess.
yeah, and he's got the same name as me, right?
Yeah,
it's almost
there you go.
Tom Hayes. Tom Hayes.
Time flew by really fast this time.
Do you have any more questions?
I've got plenty of them, but I have this feeling that I just keep asking and asking them, not giving you a turn. Master Steve.
Well, Master Steve, I'm ready.
Master Steve.
All right.
Okay, another one before your question.
Okay.
My last one, promise. Where does one's freedom end?
Well, the standard answer is where someone else's freedom begins, right? So, obviously, I mean, we've been talking about stuff like that in class, actually, you know, like what are the limits of freedom? What's it, you know, like I remember George Carlin was talking about how nationalism is just a joke, really, and you don't really have any responsibility. You know, George Carlin's a comedian, and he's passed away now. He was talking about that people don't really have any responsibility toward their country. It's just an accident of birth that they're there. He says this in a funny way, actually. It doesn't sound very funny when I'm saying it. But, you know, that would lead to some very interesting discussions in class, right? Because I would take his position and say, you know, to my students that, you know, why do you say that you have a responsibility to vote? Why do you say this and that? It's just, you know, it's a bunch of baloney. It's always the same people get in power over and over again. And they would, most of the Armenian students would actually vigorously defend that they have responsibilities as citizens, right? And that's part of what freedom is, right? You know, it's the responsibilities that you have as a citizen to vote and to participate in the democratic process. You know, to me, that's fundamental to any kind of democracy, and you can't have freedom without it. So it was refreshing to see that the Armenian students in my class felt that way as well.
Thank you. Master Steve, wrap up.
Yeah. We've got just a little bit of time left, but I want to ask about, and it's actually kind of related to that as well. Like, considering the political situation here in Armenia and the political situation in the U.S., what do you think each side can learn from one another now? And actually, let's just stick with the Armenian side. What do you think that Armenians can learn
from the United
States? From the U.S. at this point?
Okay. Well, in a lot of ways, I think that they've gone a lot further than the U.S. I mean, they stood up recently. It was really an amazing and wonderful and glorious thing, if I may say so, that the Armenian people stood up for their rights and were able to persevere in a peaceful way, like following the concepts of Thoreau and Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and all these other great leaders of other countries that have come before, and were able to persevere and get their freedom. I mean, if anything, I think they could teach us something, right? It's really important to stand up for your rights and to stand up for what you think is what you believe in. And I'm really proud of the Armenian people for doing that. So what could they learn from America? Well, I think, you know, they're trying to. I mean, you know, there's still a lot of problems here in Armenia, and there will be in the future. There's always the ever-present issue of corruption, and there's the problem of the war with Azerbaijan and the relationship with Turkey, and hopefully that'll get resolved someday.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Tom, for being here.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, and we hope that we'll see you again. Stay tuned. We'll be back with a calendar of events.
Hey, where are you off to?
I'm playing soccer.
You lost your sock?
No, I'm playing soccer. What you call football?
No, you don't say soccer. You say football.
Join us on the Great American Weekend and learn about different sports from America and around the world.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. And
6 minutes before the
6
ending.
minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I feel like we should fade out tonight with the Doors.
Yeah.
This is
and the
end.
lights off. And
I'm not going to try to sing like Jim Morrison, but you guys all know that song, right? The
Yeah.
Doors, the end, right? Okay. Or REM's It's the End of the World as We Know It. So we've got our last calendar of events here at the Great American Weekend.
next time you'll have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Research, do your homework. Do it without us. Okay.
So, American Corner Yerevan, the reading club with Jim Daly, March 3rd at 1 p.m. The Yerevan American Corner invites you to this week's reading club, moderated by Jim Daly. This week, you will read and discuss The Green Mile by Stephen King, which was also made into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Please be informed that the club is for people with intermediate levels of English, 18 plus as well. Make sure to be present. Make sure to present a library card in order to participate in the club. And please don't be late. English for kids at the American Corner in Yerevan. The U.S. Embassy and the Yerevan Corner, or American Corner in Yerevan, cordially invite you to take part in our English language course for 8 to 10-year-old students. The course aims at developing speaking skills of the students, enhancing vocabulary, and providing a platform where they can express their thoughts and ideas in English. The club will take place on Mondays at 3 p.m. and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Only 25 participants can take part each week, so please register in advance.
Thank you, Master Steve. And now let's move on towards movies in English at Kino Park, Yerevan Mall, happening from today till March 4th. There is Doolittle 2020 American fantasy adventure film at 2:15 p.m. Sonic the Hedgehog, an adventure comedy film based on the video game, at 2:55 p.m. The Gentleman, a really, really cool action comedy.
If you haven't seen this one yet, go and check it out. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would watch it again. Directed by Guy Ritchie at 6:30 p.m. The Call of the Wild, adventure film based on the Jack London novel of the same name, starring Harrison Ford, 4:25 p.m. We do not have any information on the opera and ballet yet, but you can check out. There is some online information during the week. There will be.
Yep. And live music this week in Yerevan. We have the new quintet at Ulihanyan tomorrow night, March 1st. Go and check them out. They are a great jazz kind of funk band. Really enjoyable. Karina Arustamian and the band at Mezzo on March 2nd. The Birds Band is playing at Ulihanyan on March 2nd. Project LA is at Club 12 on March 3rd. Danny Healy, the Australian saxophone player, is in town. He will be playing with Karen Gregorian's trio at Ulihanyan on March 3rd. The Triangle Jazz Trio will be at Ulihanyan on March 4th. By the Way Band is playing at Mezzo on March 4th as well. The AM Jazz Quartet is at Ulihanyan on March 5th. Yellowstone's band is at Mezzo on March 5th as well. Two Tenors, which is Danny Healy again from Australia, along with Arsene Nersisian, is at Ulihanyan on March 6th. The Ness Band is playing at Mezzo on March 7th. Lolosity is at Stop Club March 7th as well. And we have the Samvel Gasparian Quartet featuring Danny Healy again, the saxophone player from Australia. That is at Ulihanyan Club on March 8th.
Thank you, Master Steve. And I've got a couple of cool events. We finally have the date for Dali and Picasso exhibitions, which will be on from March 7th at the National Gallery of Armenia. From 11 a.m. There will be the opening, so hurry up. Do not miss it. And also there is a really, really cool circus for kids. It's water circus happening at Sport and Concert Complex.
Yeah, that looks interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there with Sasha.
Yeah, I'll probably go there with Emmy.
Well, let's do it together.
Okay.
We'll miss our shows by that time. So March 6th, 7th, and 8th. Hurry up, get your tickets, and go there. And that's all.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We're wrapping it up for the final episode of the Great American Weekend. We won't be here next week at
Saturday.
the same time.
And we don't like long words of goodbyes, even though we had an entire episode dedicated.
I had goodbye slang and phrases, but we didn't get to them, which is probably for the better. Hey, it's a small town. We'll probably see you around. And if we do see you out and about at a concert or on the street, don't be shy. Come up and say hi.
And I would like to say hello and thank you to our faithful Irene, who was always calling and writing comments. And thank you to all of you guys for listening, for commenting, for giving us all the compliments and all the best
Thank
words.
you. Yep. Thank you to all of our guests over the past year, and thank you to all of our audience members. And like I said, it's a small town. We'll see you around.
Let's end with the Terminator's phrase. Who knows? We'll be back.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.